Hey everyone, welcome back to the Stay on Your Bike podcast. Today we've got part two of the Jared Graves interview. I hope you enjoyed the first one. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it. We've just had a couple of weeks break. I've been off to Morzine for a couple of weeks, which is amazing. And what have you been up to, Jared? Welcome back. Good to see you again.
Good to be here again, PG. Yeah, not much is going on at home. The weather's coming nice. So I've been getting out a lot more on the mountain bike, even getting on the road bike again because it's just too cold in winter. So even though people might think Australia is not cold, like we still get some very cold days, and the wind chill here where I live is pretty cold. So, but the weather's coming nice now. Springtime is here, so it's beautiful.
I'm jealous because we're the opposite. We've had an incredible summer. We had mega weather when we were in Morzine, and now back in Scotland, and it's definitely turning. It's still okay, but it's we've had a fair bit of rain, and as you can see, I've got a sweatshirt on today, and I've got a long winter ahead. I imagine.
Yep.
So
We've got a nice warm summer coming. We meant to get a very wet spring and summer, so we'll see what happens, but be
yeah.
good.
Oh, good,
Best
good.
time of year.
I'm jealous. Well, anyway, let's pick up where we were from the last chat we had. We've just had the Enduro second ever Enduro World Championships, and it wasn't a bad result for your mate Richie.
Taking the win and Slav in second, so good day for the team. Good day for my horses. Good on
Yeah,
them.
yeah. I mean, obviously, the coverage from the Enduro isn't when you sat at home, you don't see a great deal. You see a few clips here and there, and Charlie's doing an amazing job trying to keep everyone informed on what's going on. It looked like to me, it I don't know if you saw it yourself, but you probably did. It was kind of streamed on YouTube, the last
Yeah, I
stage,
was up watching the live stream at the end there. So
which so it seemed like it basically in the men's category and the women's category, it came down to that basically that last stage on
yeah,
the medals.
yeah. I
Um,
mean that was the best moment for me was when Richie crossed the line in the lead because I knew either him or Slav was going to win. So either way, like, I was super happy for Richie and Slav in second. So that was just unreal to see both of them up there. So, but yeah, super cool to see it come down to the last stage, and that's what you want when there's a live broadcast now. But like you said, it's a little sad that there's not better coverage for it, and at least trying to keep people more informed through the day. No doubt that the downhill and XC is sort of taking priority with Warner Brothers, which is a bit of a shame. Like, I mean, that they're awesome disciplines. Like, I watch all the races myself, but I think enduro is just something that everyone can relate to. It's sort of where all the bike sales are primarily. So it's
yeah.
just I just think they just need a little bit of time. It was doing so well for so long with EWS, and now going to UCI, it's sort of been going through a bit of a lull. But I
Yeah.
think it'll find its feet again soon. It'll be back super strong again.
Do you think it'd be better if the Enduro went off to its own sort of organization again, like I guess Chris Ball did originally with the EWS? Do you
Yeah,
think?
honestly, the EWS was so good. The early years, I still think the first couple of years were just like perfect. Like the mix of trails and the places we went to, I just loved that it was a true World Series. Going to Southern Hemisphere down in Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, all through Europe, going to South America. Like we truly did race everywhere, and that was what a true World Series should be, not this
Hmm.
European series that it is now.
But
Like
what?
I know people complain that people get. Well, I complain that it's a European series, but I don't think it's really a true test if you're just riding on European style trails all the time. So it was way better when you had some sort of, Winter Park was super bike parky, and all the Euros were complaining like, this is not enduro. Like, well, this is what enduro is in this part of the world. So
Yeah,
deal with it. Like,
yeah,
we have to go and race your janky switchbacks and
yeah,
nose around all these on these cow tracks. So you come here and ride what we ride all the time.
yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, what it is so diverse, isn't it? I mean, if you think about, you're racing in Medina or Derby or Whistler, and then you go to Switzerland, and those tracks in Switzerland that you race in, they're basically rocky walking paths, aren't they? And to me,
Yeah,
that stuff's fun to ride, but man, it's so scary if you have to push your limits.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
you know
honestly, though, it's such a there's such a diverse mix over the years. Like the early French rounds we did, I still think that was the best format. You know, Fred would get up there and he'd like tape in the most amazing sort of open courses. Like so much work went into just making these stages, and you get up there for your one practice run, and straight away go back up and race it. And
yeah
those open and flowy, there's still some like sort of some little goat tracks in there as well, but like the mix of everything in those old school French rounds was so good. I
yeah.
would love to see that format come back.
And what do you think? At the moment, what I hear is basically going into 2026. I don't know of any teams that are carrying on. I hope Yeti's carrying on because you've got such a strong program. But I've heard of so many teams pulling out, which will mean that all the top riders that it's taken a while to build the superstars of enduro. I think like when it first started, you had uh, people like Jerome Clements and people like that who were kind of the enduro stars, but in the general public, they weren't as well known as, say, your
Yeah.
downhill stars and even your four cross stars from back in the day. But and then obviously you coming into it, and then Sam being successful in it. You were already famous from the downhill and the four cross. Um, I feel like now it's going to go backwards, and it's going to be people winning enduros that no one even knows again. And then, you
Yeah,
know,
I think it's like it's not that the level's still exactly where it's always been. It's just that because the coverage isn't as good, people don't see these riders as much, so they don't build exactly like you just said. They don't build the name and the reputation for themselves. So
mm,
that's a big shame, I reckon. Like I think if someone really got behind it and like put the effort into the sport there was for those years with Chris Ball when it was EWS, then it could be fully amazing again. Like it was so good for so many years, and it's a real shame the direction it's gone the last few years.
yeah, definitely. Um, so, and what do you think? Why do you think it's sort of gone that direction? Because in those early days, what you're talking about that were good, there's probably more footage now, isn't there, with Instagram and all the live feeds and stuff. But the industry is not interested in it at all. That's how it seems to me.
I think it's just because like downhill and XC is just getting all the exposure, so that's where they're putting all the budget, all the money. So um, because EWS early on in those years, we were getting lots of exposure. There was always race coverage, and even though it wasn't live, as far as like as we're doing it goes, like but there was still a good amount of stuff for people to watch, and people were following it, and it was had the opportunity to really blow up from there. Just needed to be sort of pushed a little bit harder, a little bit further.
Yeah.
Obviously it's always going to be hard to cover such a massive course and everything, but
Hmm.
um, I think we'll get there. I'm pretty sure we'll get there one day because the style of riding is too popular for it to not sort of get back to where it was and beyond. So
Yeah.
just see what the future brings, I guess. But yeah, it's a bit of a waiting game. I feel like at the moment with just the coverage and growing back to a high level again.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, before we move on from that, obviously, like the race came down to that last stage, and Richie definitely, you know, held his nerve and pressure. I guess for him, because he's kind of moved over to downhill, it meant even more to win that world title because he didn't win it last year. He's won four overall world titles. That was some nerve and commitment he must have had to give in that last stage.
Yeah, I mean, every time I think it's come down to a super close last run, time wise, he's always pulled out. He's always rises to that occasion. Like I saw it in him when he was a junior. Like he was the guy in downhill to do whatever qualifying time and then just take huge chunks off in his final. He was always that guy who stepped up when he needed to. So every time he's in that situation, I'm always confident that he's going to pull it out in the clutch sort of thing. So and he did that again. So Slav laid down a heater of a run too, but Richie just laid
Yeah,
down a little bit more of a heater.
yeah. Yeah, and I was talking to Keelan yesterday, and healing vibes to Keelan. He had a biggie and actually broke his back, so he's in hospital at the moment. Um, but he was telling me, the bit of footage that we saw of that last stage, which looks super slippy and janky and awkward. Keelan said there was probably like 2 minutes of flat pedaling in that stage. So when you got to that point where they were filming, you were absolutely blowing out your ring.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, sometimes the footage that we see obviously doesn't look as impressive as the downhill because the downhill's so fast and people are fresher.
yeah,
But yeah, fair play, well done, Richie. And as a friend and kind of a coach for Richie, how do you sort of diverse between winning the enduro and then switching over to the downhill, which he's trying to do? I mean, he's gone from winning the world championships on Monday to practicing at Champre on the downhill for the world championships on the Thursday. I mean, that's a pretty close turnaround.
yeah. I mean, I think that was just something that was the plan all year. So Richie only did two other enduros all year, and his big focus for the year was like with enduro was world champs. It was win or nothing for him. Like he wasn't going to be happy with anything but the win. So for him to pull that off, and like talking to him this morning, he said, "Oh, he just feels so much more relaxed now because obviously he wants to do well. He's going to give it everything, but he doesn't feel he just like the pressure with downhill this year for him was just started off well with fourth in Poland, and then from there things didn't really click it all around. So he just started sort of that the confidence dropped a bit, and then he sort of felt that pressure like just to get a result, and it just wasn't happening. So I think the little refocus on enduro for the world champs, and then just being more relaxed now, knowing that that's done. And if you win a world title, regardless of every other race in the year, like you've had a good season, so
Not
you
off.
can't say you've had a bad season if you've won a world title. So
Yeah.
I think that hopefully we're doing well for the weekend. So
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. I mean, like you say, I mean, I went out for a pedal yesterday, and I was just when you go out for a bike ride on your own, it's kind of where I think about things the most because you've got time to do it. Um, and for Richie to, it's easy to like follow Richie's progress over the downhill, other than Poland, and think, oh, he's not doing great. But to to come, if you think about his season this year, like he was fourth in Poland at the first downhill World Cup, which was insane. Then, like you say, he didn't back that up at the next rounds, which was must be so frustrating and hard mentally. But then he goes to Whistler, wins A line, wins Garbanzo, then wins the Enduro World Championships, and then he's racing at the Downhill World Championships. I mean, just those results so far this year, that's like better than some people would have in their entire career.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think like that the Whistler trip and especially the Garbo win, winning by so much, and just knowing because he was sort of his feedback after was Latuili got second to Slava, and he was really happy with second, but he just knew his fitness wasn't quite where it needed to be for world champs. So we came up with a bit of a plan, just fitness wise, to sort of pick that up a little bit, and so he's worked hard since then. But then at Garbo, then he laid down a good run, and he knew because it's 12 minutes or whatever, so you got to have a pretty good amount of fitness and strength to go for that long, that hard, and that's a super brutal physical course. So that was the thing that kick-started his confidence again, I think, for Enduro Worlds anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it's so impressive. And you know, winning A line's no mean feat, is it? Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Completely different style of riding again.
yeah. I mean, he's always been so good at just carrying speed and pumping and all that sort of stuff. Like we've done runs together before where he just starts pumping stuff and you just see from behind the speed he's picking up and you're just like, oh my God, sort of thing. So,
Yeah,
I mean, you get that amount of that, a guy that's that big and that strong starts pumping and he's got such good technique for that stuff too. Like
yeah,
he looks so effortless half the time too, but then it's a totally different sort of thing when you're following him down a trail, like, and you just see the aggression and the speed building, and
Yeah.
saw that from a very young age, and it's only gotten stronger every year since.
And he's not old by any stretch of the imagination, but because he's been doing it for so long and been in the limelight for so long, it's impressive to me that he still looks so motivated, like a really young person.
Well, he's just one of those guys, like from a kid, I met him when he was 15 or 16, and he just always loves riding his bike. Like you can't stop him from riding his bike. So
That's
that's
great.
something that I think he'll always have. And, he's been riding, I think his dad got him on the bike. There's photos of him when he was single digits in age riding. So he's been at it for such a long time. And
Yeah.
some people just are like that, they've just been riding all their life and it's all they want to do. So,
It's great. And a question about Garbo because most people know what it is, but it's quite a unique race, isn't it? In that it's like a downhill race, but like you say, it's 12 minutes for Richie. It's about half an hour for me. Um, and it's got some climbing in. It's got some janky stuff. It's got some fast downhill stuff. And people have
yeah.
won. What bike would Richie ride for that? Was that just his like it's
He rode
pretty
the enduro bike for that, yeah. He just rode pretty much the same bike he raced at World Champs. He rode the road Garbo on. So
okay?
at
And
that point, he was just trying to get time on his enduro bike again at speed, at race pace to just sort of get things set up and get comfortable and confident on it again because he spent the majority of his time on the downhill bike this year. So
sure, because the experience I've had with Garbo, we were there one year. I think it might have been maybe 19 or 18 or something, and Sam won it on our prototype downhill bike that we had at the time.
yeah,
Um, I remember Sam had never rode that bike before, and he obviously was doing well at enduro, so he had some good fitness and speed. Um, but I went up with him in practice. I think he did about 3 or 4 runs on the bike, and as I say, he'd never rode the bike, so every run he was back down to CJC to change some settings on the suspension, and then he said to me, "I think I'd rather just ride my enduro bike," and I was like, "Yeah, well, that's cool if you want to do it, but the kind of thing we're trying to get out of here is if you like the bike and if the bike's better because it was a new platform for the
mm,
downhill bike." And he said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll just race on the bike. He's pretty easy going, Sam." Uh, and we got up to the top. He didn't warm up. He just sat there for ages. Everyone was doing the warm up routines, and he just typically pedaled out the start as if he was not even bothering. And I thought, oh well. Got to the bottom. He flipping won the race. I'm like, how'd you do that? But what I'm trying to get to is what would you say if say you were going there now to try and win that race? What do you think the ideal bike setup is to win Garbo?
I guess everyone's different. Like the way, say, Richie can ride. I mean, it comes back to like the whole, for me, like the Peter Maritzburg, even though Garbo's gnarly in that Peter Maritzburg world's downhill track, like I thought from the start of practice, I thought the downhill bike would be quicker because they did so many little changes to the track to make it faster and flowier. But I had no time on my downhill bike. I wasn't comfortable or confident on it. It's like I got to stick to what I would, if I would have got a weekend beforehand on the downhill bike, I probably would have ridden it. But
Okay.
I just wasn't comfortable and confident on it. So I just wanted to stick to what I knew because you have such limited amount of practice at World Champs. So, Garbo is kind of the same thing. I think whatever you're comfortable and confident on, it's got a bit of a mix. So there's areas where the downhill bike's going to be quick because I think Luke Meyer Smith was he was right, he was on the podium too, and he was on his downhill bike and
Mhm.
in third. So and Gilly rode his enduro bike as well to second. So
Yeah.
um, just whatever works. Like a guy like Luke can ride anything too. Like you put him on his enduro bike, he might have, who knows? He might have gone
Yeah.
a bit quicker and might have even gone a bit slower. Like because again, he probably hasn't spent a ton of time on his enduro bike. So I think
Yeah.
it's one of those courses with a mix. So if you're whatever you're comfortable and confident on, that's what you should be on, and that's what even with like that was always my biggest thing with enduro racing is like I never fiddled with too much suspension. Like you get your sort of your base setting and you kind of stick to it. You might change a little bit with tires and some basic suspension settings from race to race. You get your setup at the start of the year, and because you'll have the pedally stage, and then you'll have the gnarly technical stage, and the rough fast stage, and the slow stage, and
Yeah.
there's no sort of golden setup for anything. Every trail you ride, especially with enduro, even Garbo, like there's so much variation to it. Like
Yeah.
in some areas, a certain bike's going to be quicker, and in some other areas, another bike's going to be quicker. So you just
Yeah.
got to work out what works for you overall, and sort of be 100% in tune with what the bike's going to do, and just go for it. So ultimately, you want to be in a situation where you're not even thinking about what your bike's doing. You just want to be able to put your brain in neutral and just go.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about Garbo, I mean, I think it's a really impressive race and format. It's kind of a mix between enduro and downhill, isn't it? It's it's 12 minutes long or plus, um, which is I guess that's quite hard to film the whole thing. But
Mm.
with all the amazing bike parks that you've got nowadays, you could nearly have a mini series of that style of racing, couldn't you?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Actually, it's a good idea, Paige. You get onto it.
I know, I think so. I have loads of good ideas, but no one ever offers me a job to get involved with them. Um, but I think it'd be super cool, and also, really, you, just to put it out there, I love doing the enduro when I did a few races, in the Masters because we were there with the team and stuff. I've never
Yeah,
been, I've never really trained properly for it. I can go out pedaling and I'm fit enough to do it, but I can't be bothered doing sprints and uphill stuff. And I did a race the other weekend because my son wanted to go, and it had some pedaling and climbing in it, and I just didn't enjoy it. As a non-professional bike rider. However, if I was in Whistler and I could race Garbo, I'd still do it.
yeah,
I wouldn't be fit enough to win it, but I'd enjoy it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I totally, yeah. Like I think, and even like what you just said, I think the style of enduro racing's kind of changed a little bit. Even local stuff here, like early, some of the what I loved about enduro early on was like you had to train for a real broad aspect of things. And then even with your bike setup, you could choose the lighter, faster rolling tires that sort of would be quicker on some stages because of the pedaling and whatever.
Yeah.
But then you have the flat wrist as well. So you really have to think about your setup, your whole bike setup to get through the weekend. Whereas over the years, it just sort of became like, double downhill tires with cush core for us. And like, that's just it. Like you don't even contemplate running anything lighter now. And that's kind of almost the way that even the local racing's gone. Like it's, because like we used to have like they'd throw in like a 2 or 3 minute climb in the middle of like a 15-minute stage back then. So that
Mm.
really did bring in the sort of the best. I thought the best all round mountain biker. Like used to see a ton of guys from XC World Cups come and race, and then over the years that just completely stopped and it just became downhillers coming and racing enduro. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I said like even the local races here they sort of shy away from this like they'll do some sort of pedally stages, but not pedally by old standards. So
Right.
um,
Okay. Yeah.
just trying to make it. I mean, and that's cool too. Like just trying to make it more because, like you said, like not everyone loves to suffer the whole day. So
Yeah.
people can put up with like maybe one longer pedalier stage, but overall they just want to sort
Yeah.
of cruise down the trails and have fun with their mates and
Yeah.
not be absolutely dead at the end of the day. So
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. But yeah,
just find
I think with all the bike parks and the lift access in all the various places now, you could literally have a Garbo downhill style series. I think a lot of
yeah.
amateurs would enjoy that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah.
And
Something
and
a little more physical than regular downhill, maybe a little less gnarly. But I mean, Garbo, like
yeah,
and that track gets so lapped out, it gets so flogged as well. So
yeah,
it's definitely not an easy one. But no, I think you're onto something there, Paigey.
yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe we should go into partnership. You can organise the Southern Hemisphere ones. I'll do the Northern.
Deal. Let's do it.
Um, And just going back to, that talking about the bike setup, going back to, when you got third at the Worlds in Peter Maritzburg on your trail bike. So I went to Morzine last year on my enduro bike. Obviously, I'm getting older and more scared, but this year I went back on the same bike. It was like a 166 rear travel evil frame, but I put a set of 190 boxes on the front,
Yep.
and that it transformed it
Triple
for
clamp
me.
forks. I was going to say triple clamp forks, like downhill forks on an enduro frame, completely transform it. I've done
Insane.
so many national rounds in Australia over the years where I just would stick a 40 on my enduro frame, like so you'd have 6 inches out the back and generally like try and I had a reduced travel, like a 185 mil travel 40 that I ran that fork for years. It just go from frame to frame because Fox sort of did the fork up just for me. And
Yeah,
it's like held onto that fork for ages. And I did so many national rounds with that, the old
yeah,
SB6C with the 40s up front. So, and it was such a weapon. There was actually an enduro national here at home one weekend, and we had a national downhill and Oceania champs the next weekend. So the weekend before we raced the national round,
yeah.
and so I did all, and one of the stages was the top half of the downhill track, and then we turned off and did something else. And then the next weekend, put the same bike, just shove the 40s on the same bike, and then first practice run on the top half of the downhill track. I was like, oh my God, like this is a total game changer, like just the precision, just the way you could attack everything. And it didn't even, I was still getting used to it too, because the fork so totally sort of transformed how the bike felt as well. But first run, I was like, this is honestly, I'm surprised that no one's. I called it years ago. I thought someone would do a triple clamp enduro for. Actually, funny story. I've got a set of Olin's third, like from we tested them years ago because we were thinking about running them in a race. A triple clamp set of um, 36 mil air forks, and I've still got those things sitting here, and they were same thing. They're a bit of a game changer. So, but
Yeah.
we never got the opportunity to run them. But I'm sure it'll happen one day, surely.
Yeah, I mean, uh, last year when I went to Morzine, I had a 180 Zeb on the front, which is easy, capable enough for what I'm doing. But just, you know, I had 10 more mil travel in my boxer because it was reduced to a 190. But
Yeah,
the confidence I had compared to the single crown fort was stupid.
yeah.
Like I hit way more
Just
jumps than I
specific
did.
precision. Yeah,
I've just felt like I was on a mini downhill bike in the to the point where I started going faster, getting used to some trails where, you know, in the end that the rear travel started to become like I was on the limit for me. Do you know what I mean? It was like, whoa.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
where where I then started to think, oh, I wouldn't mind a downhill bike again, but you
I mean,
know,
I would love a downhill bike, but like, and I've had a few over the years recently, but then you end up like, I got to the point where it takes probably, I reckon, a good 3 days within a week where you're consistently riding to start feeling sort of really good on it.
yeah,
But I never got that time on the bike. So every time I'd go out and ride it, it would just feel awkward and weird. You could feel like the speed could be there, but like just
yeah,
didn't get enough time on it. And so they end up just sitting there and then yeah.
yeah,
I'd love one too, but
yeah, yeah. I mean,
no one travels really too much anymore. Well, people do, but like
I mean, for me, especially being in Morzine, the benefits of the bike I was on, I still had 12 gears and a dropper post and a water
yeah,
bottle mount, which is, I think it's so essential for a bike park. I don't know why there isn't more. There's so many people that ride bike parks that don't race downhill World Cup.
yeah,
Why isn't there more downhill style bikes with that kind of setup on? Do you know what I mean?
yeah, that's true. You just gave me an idea actually. I want to put a downhill fork on my e-bike.
Yeah, no, I've
Because you
thought of
can
that.
pedal
Yeah,
up and shred down. So no chairlifts here at home, but
yeah, yeah.
e-bike with a triple clamp
Yeah,
money.
and especially on the e-bike, even if you've got the same travel as your enduro bike, it's more planted because of the weight of it
Yeah,
and stuff. It's just obviously, I guess with a 40, they're a bit wider, so you've got more room because the e-bike, some e-bikes are really wide around the head tube, aren't they?
yeah.
Um,
I'm just glancing over at it now. I think it'd look pretty good with a
yeah, get it
nice
done and send some
bit.
pictures over.
Got to
Cool.
hit up first, I guess.
So anyway, let's talk about this. There's a small event going on at the moment, and the juniors. I think the juniors do the seeding or qualifying or whatever it's called today over in Champery,
Yeah.
for the downhill worlds. Um, did you watch Leger last week?
I didn't watch it live, but I've seen plenty of footage since. So it's just that awkward time zone where
Yeah,
racing's going on in the middle of the night here. So when you've got two young ones, sleep has to be somewhat of a priority.
definitely. Well, I mean, every race now to me is getting more and more impressive. Like the speed that so many of the guys are going at.
Yeah,
You know, they had mixed conditions last week with, it was wet and muddy. When the juniors went off earlier, it was wetter mud, but to me it didn't look any easier than when the elites came down. But I wasn't there, so it's hard to tell. It was
yeah,
obviously claggier in the afternoon, but I imagine some bits were slightly less sketchy than in the morning, but again, I don't know. But basically, Ronan put down an insane run in the finals. Yeah, Amory was up on was basically matching him on the split and then went over the bars. So that would have been good to see, who took it in those two guys. But they were, seconds ahead of, Mark. Great to see Martin
mm,
Mays on his flat pedals in second.
yeah,
Unreal.
yeah.
And you've got Max Alran, who absolutely,
His fastest time of the day, wasn't it?
yeah. I mean, it was super close to Ronan. It was, it was only
Yeah,
tenths, but he put a big margin into Acer, which when Acer had done his run, I was thinking, wow, that's going to be hard to beat.
yeah,
But then Acer's run to me, he had his foot out a lot. He was, which he wouldn't have done if it was dry.
mm,
So he was battling a little bit, even though it was, he's an insane bike rider. And then Max Alran came down and just looked like he was having fun. He was gapping stuff that other people weren't. He was jumping out of corners, and that it was so impressive. I thought, I
it looked
thought,
like from the footage I saw before racing, it looked like he was winning practice for sure.
dude, that kid's amazing. Um, So it's going to be so exciting next year when those guys move up to elite. I bet the elite boys are thinking, "Oh Christ, we've got
Yeah.
got
The way it
our
always
hands."
goes, like you get a few years when you're young and then you're like there's always guys like Bruni, he's what's Bruni now, 31, 32.
Yeah,
And there's always guys like that that just keep going. But yeah, just the depth now is just I think we talked about it last time, just the depth, and I think the juniors at the moment is a pretty exceptional group.
insane,
So
mate. Yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, it is a different track to. I mean, they're all different, but this is really different, isn't it, to a lot of the tracks they race on? It's basically, it's so steep there. The track's evolved over the years. It looks, it looks. I guess to the guys that are racing at that level, it's easier than it was in '07 in that there's berms to catch you, but
Yeah.
it's also gnarlier in the fact that it's so worn out and there's big chunky rocks sticking out everywhere.
I think that's always the thing with downhill in general. Like '07, it was just such a lottery getting down the track. Like there's a little fun story I was thinking about just this week. Like in my qualifying run there, I started behind Ben Reed, and he was really good in those conditions.
Yeah,
And like I was just like I'd had so many crashes in practice, and I was so sore. Like just get down the track and you'll be all right.
yeah,
And so I'm probably coming up to halfway down my qualifying run, and I hadn't crashed yet. And I thought this is amazing. I'm laying down a heater here, and then I start seeing Ben, and I'm like, oh sweet, like I know I'm having a good run if I'm catching him.
yeah,
And then as soon as I had that thought, I crashed, and then I get back on the bike, and then crashed again. Like he crashed, and I started catching him again. Then I crashed again. So we're just doing this like this yo-yo back and forth the whole time, like me catching him, and anyway, I'd crashed for the third time and snapped my brake lever off and
Oh,
couldn't even ride down because front brake, you sort of need your front brake with how steep it is there. And
for
so I had no
sure.
chance of getting to the bottom for the last like 30 seconds, 45 seconds of the run. So
Yeah.
yeah, there was no berms. That's the biggest difference between now and then. But then the berms just make it so much quicker in between. Like they're just blazing. Whereas I remember like having to control your speed down a whole straight because you knew there was like an off camber corner with like nothing on the backside of it to catch you. So it's
Unless
a different approach of how you got to ride it for sure.
unless you were Sam in '07 and he didn't seem to worry about there was no berms there.
He was, yeah, that was. I think everyone. There's a reason people still talk about that run. Like that run and his Val d'Isole run is a reason people still talk
Mm.
about it because it was
Mm.
just one of the. If you were there watching that, you're just like, how is this possible? Like,
Yeah, yeah. It kind of, I guess it was a point in the sport that it made everyone evolve and change the way they thought what was possible, you know?
yeah,
Um,
it just finding grip and like the way, yeah, he was finding grip in places that you didn't know that you could basically. So
and looking so casual about it.
yeah,
But anyway, yeah, we could go on about that run for a whole podcast, but
oh, good old days.
I know. Um, but but you know, it is a different style of track. Um, who who do you think are the contenders for the win this weekend? And there's a lot. I mean, Bruni's a little bit like a Nicholas Vulio, isn't he? He can turn it, even if he's not. You know, obviously he's in contention for the overall. And I think he's being really clever and sneaky the way he's dealing with Jackson. You know, in his little interviews, and I feel like he's getting into Jackson's head a little bit, and I think he's planning that in his own sneaky French way. But you can't knock him for you've got to use all your ammunition to try and beat someone
Oh
like
man,
Jackson.
the footage I saw of Bruni in practice, he looks typical, like just so planted and smooth on the bike. Like and he looks quick too. That's the thing. Like normally planted and smooth looks slow, but it's deceptive. It's actually quick, but he looks quick as well. So, and
Yeah,
he's obviously the guy you'd never count him out. But just from other races this year, I feel like Champer is a bit more along the lines of maybe some sections of Ludenville, like the bottom, and then we saw what Jackson did there at the bottom at Ludenville. So I
yeah,
think he might be, if he lays down a good run, especially the weather's looking like it should be pretty good on race day. So
yeah,
that'll make things sort of at least more consistent. If you want to lay down, that sort of
yeah,
risk it for the biscuit type run, which Jackson's very good at,
yeah,
then conditions being dry and hopefully consistent for everyone would probably just based off what he did at Ludenville, I think he's looking very strong. So, but then Worlds is such a funny game. Like there's so many guys that could take it, and someone just lays down that one run. So
yeah,
that's always a thing. Something weird always happens at Worlds. So
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean,
mm,
yeah, I was thinking the same thing. You know, going into Chambéry, I wouldn't think Bruni was the main contender, but because it's Worlds,
yeah,
I think he's got to be in there. I mean, like you've just said, that style of track with a lot of tons of berms and corners and the steepness, you'd be daft to bet against Jackson. I think
yeah,
Amri's looking fast, and you know, I'd love to see all the races Amri's won and stuff. You know, is he going to be one of them guys that never wins the worlds? I'd like to see him in there as well.
yeah. I'm sure he will at some point. Although I hate to say it, but we always said that about Gwynny too. Like surely he'll win it one year and then still hasn't. So
Yeah.
and I hate to say it, but maybe his best years are behind him now. So,
Yeah, but
but you never know. Yeah, who
never
knows?
we never thought Petey was going to win. Well, I thought for Petey to win the worlds after his Leger crash, and then
Yeah,
a few years, what 5 years later, he goes and wins it. So you never know.
4 seconds. Like the year before, I mean, Sam had his crash, and G obviously laid down a good run in Val d'Isole. But honestly, I thought Petey was going to get in Val d'Isole that year, and to get second again, I was like,
I know.
oh, At that point, everyone didn't matter where you're from, like everyone just wanted him to win at that point.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
when he did with Canberra, it was amazing.
yeah, yeah. Crazy. Um, but yeah. So we were just talking about bike setup. Some people don't look like they've changed the bike setup too much for Champre. Like if that was me, I'd have a pair of bars on like Dak, and I'd probably have
I was
like
actually
two
thinking that
fifty.
this morning. I was thinking that just I saw a bunch of clips of Bruni this morning, and his front end looks so low compared to the other guys, but he looks so good on it though. Like
No, but do you not
you
think?
can't fault his setup when he looks so planted on the bike.
Do you think if he whacked a set of 50 mil bars on it, it would completely ruin his setup and style?
I, he like for me like Dak has like changed so many guys' opinions of what they should be doing with their front end. I'm trying out some 40 mil rise bars at the moment, up from 30, but also running. I've gone up probably 20 mil higher than didn't want to do anything too drastic, and I've had it on for a good few weeks now, just running 20 mil higher than I ever have before. And for me, I don't feel like it's working. Like I
Okay.
like to get my weight on the front wheel a lot more and sort of. I mean, even on steep trails, I don't know if you're comfortable in your setup, like
Mm.
I don't think, well, for me at least, I don't feel like going to a super high front end ever really has helped me on even steep trails. So
Right. So
again, everyone's so different. It's just your style. Like I like
yeah,
to be sort of over the front a bit more. I feel like I'm centered, but every time I see riding footage, I'm definitely sort of a little bit more over the front. So
yeah,
and that's where I feel comfortable. So
yeah. Fair
yeah,
enough.
everyone's different. So
Yeah, like I think I don't know for sure, but like now, like obviously I get a bit more um scared when I'm on real steep stuff, and the high rise bars make me feel more like I can just stand in the middle of my bike rather than when it's super steep. I tend
yeah.
to lean back too much.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
it totally makes sense. Like, I think it would be a helpful thing to go a little bit higher, but I think doing anything too drastic for that one race, like if you're
yeah,
not used to the setup, could
sure,
backfire huge on you.
definitely.
I feel like when it's that steep, like my biggest thing was like when it gets really steep, is like, are my brakes going to slow me down? Am I just
Yeah,
going to blow through this corner? So, especially in enduro when you don't know the trails really that well or
yeah,
at all. So that was always sort of the biggest issue there. But
yeah,
at least with down, you've got a bit of time to sort of play around with your speed and find your limits a bit more.
yeah,
Yeah, I just think different things work for different people, and
yeah,
can't really pinpoint exactly what it is, but it's how it's always been. So
yeah, definitely. I agree. And what do you think? Well, obviously the cool thing about Worlds is for if you're a super fan, there's some like mega cool paint jobs out there and stuff, and everyone gets behind Worlds and special kits, helmets, um, paint jobs. I mean, if you think about how much money just doing the Worlds costs for a team these days, it's quite
yeah,
incredible, isn't it?
it's like if you don't have your custom paint job, then no one gets you don't get any photos or any videos or exposure for your brand. So you've got to have something a bit different. But
You've got
I
to,
was always like, I get a bit of sort of nostalgia, a bit of FOMO when you see the bikes because like I used to get cool bikes like that, and, and now I don't anymore. So
yeah,
I loved all that the special. The funny thing was though, I started developing a real sort of I was never superstitious, but I was superstitious about world champ specific bikes because
okay,
every time Yeti did me a custom bike for world champs, it backfired.
right,
So going into Canberra in 2009, I was like, I'm just going to ride the same bike I've been on all year. They were like, do you want something custom? Like, I just want to be on the same raw bike, raw alloy. Stick some. We didn't even change the stickers. They printed up some like Australia flag stickers to put
yep,
on it just for the race, and some green and gold colors to match the jersey, like exactly like it was all year. I don't want to change anything. We
ah.
put that new cassette, new chain on it, new chain ring, and new brake pads, and then
Yeah.
just gave the bike a rebuild, and that was it. Good to go.
Yeah, interesting because yeah, we did in 14 when Sam was riding for our team, we had alloy downhill bikes. They were big square, chunky looking things. But obviously with an alloy bike, we could do, we could anodize stuff, and we had
Mm.
I don't know, I don't even know how it came up, but we had a gold anodized bike for Sam, and that it was in half yell, and Sam was actually the fastest dude to the last split and went over the bars in the rock garden,
The
and
last thing you could possibly crash on.
yeah, and after that he was like, man, I don't want a gold bike again, uh, because you're tempting fate, aren't you? If you've got a gold bike and you don't win, it's like
That was a funny thing. So in 2010 then at Mont Saint Anne, because all year I'd been on my custom painted bike with the the rainbow decals all over it, rainbow colors like. And so I ended up racing world championship Mont on because I wanted to ride the same bike I'd been on. I had two different bikes that I sort of would rotate, and but I wanted to be on the same bike that I'd been on all season.
yeah.
And so I ended up racing world champs on a world champ painted bike, and then Slavic passes me in the last corner, and I get
Oh,
second.
yeah.
So
I know it's a
then it
bonkers.
was back to the whole, like custom painted, like it just backfired again. Like
Going.
if it works out, if Sam would have won that race, it would have been amazing. But
I know, I know. Yeah,
yeah, the good, imagine the photo of the finish holding up the gold bike
I
with the
know.
gold medal. Like,
That's the dream. That's the dream, and
what
it
can
was
you do?
this close to happening.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I
that's
feel your pain, Paige. I feel your pain.
yeah, that's one of the most not I wouldn't say disappointing. I'm just because obviously he was doing amazing, but in the whole time I was doing the team, that's probably the hardest thing and the thing that I wish hadn't have happened the most. That would have been the icing on the cake to get a downhill world title with Sam. Then it would have been yeah, would have completed what I was doing there.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but and even going to when you are world champion, it's like the most amazing thing that could happen in your career. But then the year after, you've got a race in them rainbow stripes, and
Yeah,
it just like Ace of Amet, for instance, world champion junior, coming into this season, you'd have thought he was going to win most of the races, in the World Cup, and he hasn't won one yet.
yeah,
Valley's in the world title in the world jersey. You'd have the same thing with her. She hasn't won a race this season.
yeah.
Loris, I mean, do you
I
think?
think that just shows the depth, though. Like
I
all the
know that.
categories, so much
Yeah,
depth.
but all three of those guys riders are capable of winning. Do you think it actually makes a difference that added pressure in that world championship
Um,
kit?
like I think it can go either way. Like you feel the pressure, but sometimes the pressure is a good thing. So
Yeah,
I just know the year I raced in the Jersey, I had a really good season the next year overall too. So
yeah, fair
and
enough.
from round one, like racing in it in round one, I actually hated. Well, not hate. Hated's a strong word, but I kind of wished I didn't win the first World Cup round the next year because then I never actually got to race in it really the whole year because then I won the first round, then I was in the leader jersey for the whole season
Ah,
after that.
yeah,
So maybe
yeah,
that's why I won as many races as I did
yeah.
that year.
It was covered over.
Who knows?
Yeah. And what's your thoughts on that kit? I mean, so much money goes into the teams and the setups and the custom kit and stuff. Do you think it do you think it's a good thing that you're racing that full white kit, or do you think you should be in your team kit?
No, I mean, just as a kid growing up, I remember seeing photos of like Nico wearing the world champ jersey and Ankara wearing the world champ jersey, and I just thought, it's something that no one else gets, and so that instantly became just like you never sort of thought it was going to happen, but when you get to the point where you're like, okay, I could win a world title, then that just becomes, for me personally, that was such a laser focus of like I need one of those jerseys sort of thing. So
Cool.
I just think it was like, and I just remember like, so we had Canberra in 2009, and then 2 weeks later was World Cup finals in Schladming, And the first time I got to put on the jersey right into practice for that first, we had about we were staying like maybe about half a kilometre down the road in the house we were staying at, and just riding to practice in the jersey for the first time, and like you ride through the pits, and like you just notice like people are looking at you and everything, like because everyone knows everyone was at Canberra, 2 weeks before, and they know what the jersey means, and I couldn't get the bloody stupid grin off my face. So
Oh, that's awesome. Is it a bit
yeah,
like when Clark Kent puts his Superman kit on? Do you feel like that?
I think that's a pretty good analogy. I think yeah, you do feel. It's not always a good thing because like I don't know, like it's hard to not feel a little bit sort of, well, I'm pretty special here sort of thing. But like I said, like that's something that can work for you, but it can also work against you because you've got a bit of a target on your back when you got that jersey on too. So that's definitely the downside. People want to find fault in what you're doing and try and bring you down a little bit, and that sucks. But that's just part of human nature, I guess, unfortunately. But that's
Mhm.
part of the deal too.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. And then, going to obviously you couldn't even answer this question if you wanted to and you did know, but there's a load of fancy paint jobs at Worlds this week, with some amazing stuff. What they can do now with paint and whatever they do to frames to make them look as good as they do. But the Yeti bikes look cool, but they look fairly
They
um
kept it pretty low key, yeah, yeah,
they look pretty low key. However, the two different, I guess, is the two variations. You've got the Yeti turquoise with a black, and you've got the Yeti turquoise with a white. To
yeah.
me, they look like they could be two production frames.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, it was, yeah. I think we did. Yeti's done that quite a bit. And when I saw the Turk and white frame, I instantly thought of our what year was it? 2007 in Fort William. We had a black front Turk rear end just for world champs, and then the next year we had. Sorry, it was the year before for Rotorua. We had a white front end with a Turk rear end. So they've kind of done he does a lot of that sort of like they recycle old ideas and sort of some throwback type things. So maybe that's not why they did it because like obviously it's like Tyler. I saw his his black frame and black front end at least, and then I saw Camille and Richie's white front with the forks to match sort of more
Yeah, it looks
their
mega.
team jersey kit. So it's a little bit more low key than others, but still looks pretty cool. So
Does that mean that bike might be coming out as a production bike? It'd be amazing to see.
I'm not sure. To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure what they're thinking with that bike at the moment. Haven't asked anyone, so
Yeah.
all I know is I don't have one. I'm sad.
Well, I think yeah, you need to step up, and I think you need to send Jared one. Get some,
Surely,
get some.
surely I can just take one of Richie's hand-me-downs.
Well,
We've always ridden the same side bike, so
that'll do. And what size bike is Richie still on a medium for enduro, and does he ride a bigger bike for downhill?
he was. I'm actually not sure. Like he was playing around with riding the large. I think he might have gone to the large actually, just because the medium, like there's only one size in a downhill bike, so and it's sort of closer to what the large is on the one SB 160. So
Okay.
I think he might have. I don't quote me on that, to be honest. I'd have to ask him. I haven't actually asked him, but he always did ride the medium in previous years, but he might have gone to the large this year,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
because it's more closer to his downhill bike. So
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. Um, and what do you think? The downhill tracks, they're so fast now. Um, you've got the Common Cell boys on the aluminium bikes. You've got a lot of other teams on carbon bikes. There's even a few small niche brands that have got chromoly bikes again now. People are adding weights to the bottom of the bikes.
yep,
Do you think there's a right way to go with a downhill bike now if you were starting one from scratch? I've got a production privy trail bike which is a single pivot. It's got a carbon rear end, but it's got a chrome molly front end. Um, and
there's a mix.
yeah, but and every time I go on that bike, I because it's just a single pivot, I think, oh no, I get into a chunky section, say on a trail up here, and I kind of tense up thinking it's gonna be horrendous, and it blows my mind at how smooth it goes through stuff, and because it's got more compliance vertically because
Yeah.
the chromoly front triangle it kind of gives a little bit. Do you think there's scope to go back to the Sun Bikes row is chromoly? Do you think there's the scope to go back to chromoly for downhill bikes?
Right. Who knows? Like I'm no engineer with that sort of stuff, but I just know that's the direction everything's going with the carbon now is just, building flex in certain points into the frame, and that's the next sort of evolution of just fine tuning that sort of stuff. So
Hmm.
um who knows? Maybe there is something to be said for chromoly, but I don't think it's going to catch on in any sort of wide scale, but you never
No, it's
know.
hard to. I mean, it's got a
Sometimes
certain
people
look.
want to do something different too, which is, I think that's cool as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, the good thing about making bikes out of carbon, you can kind of make any sort of shape you want, can't you? It's easier to make
And then that's totally the upside to it. Like you can do anything with the layout to, make certain areas stiffer, make other areas flexier,
yeah,
and but keep it strong as well. So
yeah.
it's I think that's just something that engineers are just going to keep tweaking with, and
Mm.
you got to be pretty switched on with the feedback to sort of know certain things. But it's definitely something with Yeti that we're always sort of thinking about, and it's always a topic of conversation anyway. Has been for quite a while now. So
Yeah. And what's, with the way everything's going, do you know what Yeti's direction is? I mean, everyone seems to be piling the money into downhill over enduro. The seem, the team costs, some of the team costs I've seen are pretty astronomical, and next year is going to be even more expensive. The race season is starting off in Korea, which,
yeah,
it's great to go somewhere new and somewhere like you say, you were mentioning before, when it's a full World Series, you're riding on different types of terrain. But the amount of money that teams are going to be costing, and the salaries for riders that are capable of getting on the podium seem to be going up a little bit.
yeah.
I mean, a company like Yeti, which isn't as big as some of the other factory teams, what's the thoughts on it? Are they going to go fully after downhill, or are they going to try and keep doing a bit of everything?
Think more of the same at the moment is all I've heard. So, I
Yeah,
mean, this year was so good on the enduro side, and then
I know.
the downhill's still sort of taking off. So, yeah, I think it's more of the same for next year. So
Okay,
we'll see.
cool.
I'm
I
not
mean,
fully in the loop with especially this time of year when sort of budgets are up in the air and that sort of deal. So,
yeah,
yeah, I couldn't tell you with any certainty at the moment, but I think it's just more of the same for next year.
and as usual, yeah, he's got some unreal young riders. Tyler Waite has really impressed me. You get everyone's talking about Max and Till and Asa, but Tyler's right in there every race.
Always
I
there.
think he's
Always there. Yeah,
been on every podium, hasn't he?
just about. Yeah, he's had quite a few. So.
And
His
and
raw speed and his skill was pretty amazing, actually.
and Jonty's not far off as well.
Yeah.
He's impressive. Um, so yeah, you've got a good they've they've got a good roster, and they've got people that are moving through as well to carry forward into the elite categories. Um, it's really cool. Um, are you going to get more involved with the downhill team at all, or what's your
Yeah,
plans?
at this point, the last talk I had to Damien was just, he's always asked me to keep on the lookout for the next talent if I see anyone that sort of is interesting. And a big thing with Yeti too is like just being the right person to click with the team and whatever as well. So
Yeah,
um, you're always on the lookout for the next. And I just love watching the sport, downhill, XC, enduro, whatever it is, even BMX. Still like
yeah.
always looking out for who the next up and coming rider is. So I think over the years you get to learn just different traits from riders, especially when you actually get to know them. Like that's
Mm.
how Gilly ended up getting on the team. Like ended up sort of like just, going and just chatting to him before, I saw he was getting some good results, and just go and talk to him and just, be friendly with him. And I even went and sort of talked to his dad. His dad was over at some races in 2022 watching him, and just go and have a chat and sort of get an idea of what they're all about, sort of thing. And then just be like, after a while, sort of like, all right, I think this guy might be a good fit for the team. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not obviously not traveling at the races at the moment, but that was something I've always done, and just something that I still do, like looking out for who the next up and coming rider might be. Damien's really good with it as well, obviously. So
Yeah.
it's just keeping an eye out and just knowing, with years of experience, you just get to know who the next talent could be, sort of thing, and just get to know sort of what makes them tick, kind of deal. And well, that's where like Tyler was sort of, haven't been around him this year, but he was very shy and quiet. So I'm not sure what he's like now, but I'm sure he's very comfortable with the team now. And but there's just a few areas with like training and that sort of stuff where there's definitely room for improvement with him. That's kind of the scary thing. Like,
Yeah.
he's got a few areas he could clean up and find some more speed there. And but he's just that's the thing with the young guys. Like, again, it doesn't work for everyone. Like being super serious and switched on all the time. Like sometimes guys go better if they're just having fun on their bike, and that's
Yeah.
definitely something that makes him tick, is just having fun and riding fast and riding with his
Yeah.
mates, sort of thing. So if it's working, don't change it too much.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important, especially at that young age. Like when we was in Morzine, we bumped into some of the Commencal team. They were doing laps, and Miriam was telling me that Max and Till, they just turn up. They don't do any training. They just ride the bikes, and they go to a party, and they come back, and they're like so fast. And it was
Yeah.
like, she was talking as if it was like frustrating because they're putting
I
so
think
much.
that it's all that sort of stuff that comes with age. Like you just realize as you get older that like it's not even like you're not even dropping off in other areas. You're just like, if I do this a bit better,
Yeah,
then you can find a bit more speed there. It's just a natural progression of. So I just know with the young guys, it's good when they have that sort of drive and that sort of mentality to figure it out for themselves. 'Cause it's only going to help them get quicker, sooner, sort of thing.
yeah,
But sometimes you just got to let them figure it out for themselves, and sort of when they're ready to start progressing to the next level, because otherwise you could just burn them out at a young age. So there's
definitely.
finding that balance between like pushing them to progress and just sort of letting them do their thing so they're happy. So because
Yeah,
a happy racer is a fast racer. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, again, it comes back to like the bike setup thing. Like something different works for different riders. So you
yeah,
got to recognize that and just sort of guide them in the right direction, give them some ideas and some tips. But eventually, like, and essentially, sorry, that every rider has to figure it out for themselves at some point what works for them. So, and they will given them enough time. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Definitely, mate. Anyway, let's move back to to your career, and we were chatting about all the different things that you've achieved and won, and it was insane. And the amount of work you put in to achieve all those goals, and then all of a sudden you get diagnosed with cancer. Do you want to chat a little bit about
Mm.
that? It's a bit more depressing, but good that you've smashed that and come
I
through
mean,
it
I think
well.
I'm sort of far enough away from it now that I definitely didn't like talking about it because that's all I got asked for a few years there. Like, so, but no, not what you expect to hear, but I knew it got to the point like, so obviously everything was going really well. 2014 won the Enduro World title. 2015, I got injured at the start of the year, but the season was going really well. Um, and then that's when I made the switch to Specialized. It was just sort of something that just came about at the right time. Like I just wanted to do something different. Yeti's always been my home.
Yeah.
Always wanted to go back there eventually. We talked about that and blah blah blah. But 2016 started sort of basically the start of the season. 2016 was Specialized. Like it's hard to know exactly what's going on. I felt in my head like something wasn't right, and it was nothing to do with the team or anything like that. We talked about some of the things last time. There was some stuff with the product that I wasn't entirely
Yeah.
happy with, but I think I might have been a bit more in tune with like what was going on with me internally
Hmm.
had I still been in an environment with Yeti that I was very comfortable. But like as the season went on in 2016, 2017, and then when I got diagnosed in 2018, like I was just in 2018 especially, I was making some really weird mistakes on the bike. Like I remember one was at one of the rounds where there was this key super fast section and there was a key sort of left hand kink on a stage up a little pinch climb, and I was like in my head I'm like left hand kink up a pinch climb. So I'm coming down the section. I'm like, don't break, trust your GoPro that you watch. Like, don't break, don't break. And then I lean left, knowing there's a left hand kink up a pinch climb. And as I hit it, the track goes right. And I just went straight off into the bushes at like 45k an hour before a climb. So, and straight away, that instantly I was just like, something really weird is going on. And it wasn't too long after that, I had my first seizure and another seizure, then went to the hospital, got the MRI done, and they found the tumor. And
Gee.
then the very first
Have
like
you had
appointment
any
to sit down with.
symptoms? Did
I
you
didn't
have
really have anything. It was just like it was things like that. I was forgetting things. I didn't have any headaches. I had until my seizures started happening. I had no. It was just like man, like and at the time I was like the season haven't hasn't been going very well. I was like lacking motivation. Like, I could not focus on watching GoPro. Like I just felt sort of mentally fatigued all the time. And like with the some other frustrations within the team and not getting the results is always frustrating because like whether that was me or the bike or the combo of the two, like that was sort of getting frustrating. And then those things like just not being able to focus on GoPro and like not knowing the stage, not at least not knowing that was always the thing. Like you just got to know those key points and that just wasn't happening. I was making dumb mistakes. And that first sit down with my surgeon, he's like, just based on where the tumor is, like you probably noticed you've had lack of motivation for certain things. And have you had that? And I was like, yeah, I've definitely had lack of motivation for certain things, and like things that normally you got no issue with motivation. So he was able to tell me that, and that just was like a light bulb moment straight away. And then also with just like stupid little sort of cognitive things like going the wrong way on a corner. So and like those little things had been happening for a couple of years at that point. So
oh,
sort of
no.
slowly building up and then so it was almost like while it's not the news you expect to hear that you've got cancer and a brain tumor, but then a lot of little things that actually made me feel better because like as far as the racing went, because like okay, I wasn't going crazy. Like
Yeah.
it's sort of hard to explain. It was such a different range of all the different emotions going on at the time. Like on
Okay.
one hand, you're happy that sort of things that were going on with racing was sort of has a bit more of an explanation, something that you try to explain to someone and they just think you're making excuses kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you've done so many years of riding, you just know something's not quite clicking. And I didn't really talk to anyone about it because they would just think you're making
Yeah.
excuses or being crazy sort of thing. So I just try to like get on with it.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah, it was like a big sort of. I mean, it is life changing. It's still something. I'd say it's gotten to the point where I don't think about it every day, but it's always on the back of your mind somewhere. That you've had it, and then what if it comes back, sort of thing.
yeah.
But the more time goes on, the more that I just feel like I'm back to life as usual now. So it's
And did the doctors obviously when you had to start having these seizures and you went and got diagnosed, did the doctors say like for the size of the tumor was and stuff, how long you might have had it and
well,
how,
yeah. Sorry, that's the point I was getting to that I just missed was that had been very slow growing. Like it probably started probably somewhere around 2015 is when it would have started growing and just sort of it was about the size of a golf ball when they got to it. So
Jesus.
yeah, um,
And did they say like obviously cancer's still so there's so many unknown factors, but did they say what could have like caused it, or is it just
oh,
genetic? Or
they never know. Like they still for anything they don't know what causes it. So what does a 5-year-old kid get cancer? So it just yeah, who knows?
yeah,
One
scary.
of those things. It just makes you realize you can't take your health for granted. You can't take anything for granted. And honestly, like my mindset since has been so much better because, like, well, not that it was ever like certainly not bad, but like I don't take anything for granted anymore because you've had that sort of
Mm.
life skill. When people complain about little unimportant things, it just kind of does my head in a little bit. Like there's so much more to life than complaining about. Even though I still find I have to pull myself up because like you'll be in, some traffic or something. You're like, oh, you get all frustrated. And you're like,
Yeah.
just don't. It's not a big deal. Like just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're always going to get frustrated at something, but it's always there to like put things in perspective a little bit. Just the fact that like I mean, one thing we were talking about having a family at the time, and I was sort of we're at that age, and the race career was going well and everything, but we were definitely starting to talk seriously about family, and then
Mm.
that just put all that on the back burner for years. So been lucky enough now to have two kids since we've got a 3-year-old and an almost 1-year-old. So, but I mean, potentially, we would have had kids many years sooner, but just the fact that you're able to get back to that sort of normalcy of life, like
Yeah.
that, just feels super grateful and lucky for that every day. So
Yeah.
puts
No,
that in perspective for sure.
100%. And you went through all that. I mean, how long from being diagnosed to having your surgery and then recovery, and how did that affect you, physically and stuff?
Yeah, it was. I think I got diagnosed on. So I had my first seizure was in Whistler. Actually, I got there a couple of days before the rest of the team, and I was just. It was the weirdest thing. I was like, I remember because like every seizure I had, I was asleep for them. So I just remember waking up the next morning, like thinking I had a really vivid dream of like just shaking in my bed, but like you have the seizure, and then every single time I'd be having the seizure, then you just sort of pass out again. So, but I remember this feeling of like lying in my bed, and I felt like my eyeball was popping out of my eye socket. I still remember that feeling, and then just waking up the next morning, like, all right, I better go for a ride. And funny thing was, as I was taken off for a pedal up Blackcomb Way in Whistler, and I saw Tristan Merrick, who's a good friend of mine there, and he commented after I got diagnosed, like, when I saw you that morning, you looked like something had happened the night before. Like he couldn't pinpoint what, but he's like, you just seemed different.
Mm.
And like I did feel sort of really hazy, but I was just like, I just thought I was sort of had a bad night's sleep or something. Because he by himself, there was no one there to confirm what had
Yeah.
actually happened. So we did that anyway. Did the EWS in Whistler, and the race actually went quite decently. I got sixth or seventh at that race. So it wasn't super good result, but it was one of my better results that season, especially at Whistler, like such a hard course to do well on. So, and then went home, and the first night I got home, I was just watching TV with Jess. We were like, I don't know, it might have been like 8:30 night. We were watching some movie, and I just had another seizure on the couch. Like I was jet lagged and everything, and at the time I was just putting it because like contracts were coming up, contract renewal, and the stress of like the season not going that well, and the jet lag, the travel, and like I just put it down to like fatigue because I saw you start doing Doctor Google sort of things, and I was
Yeah.
like everything that was going on with like the travel and just the stress of everything was sort of it's like that can cause seizures. So I just sort of put it down to that a little bit and being a little bit naive about it all for sure. But then it was probably about 2 or 3 weeks later, right before I was meant to go to the last two EWSs, and I'd sort of put some good training in and was ready for the last couple of rounds, and then had a seizure at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and the only thing I remember is waking up, getting on a with all the ambulance in our bedroom, getting backboarded and put into the ambulance off them for scans and everything. So that all happened sort of early September, and then they booked me in. I had instant booking in for got the scans done, and they found and they took me to a specialist in Brisbane, and who was actually the first guy in the world to do. I actually had a wake surgery for. It was like a new technique to. He'd done quite a few at this point, but he was the first surgeon in the world to do awake surgeries. So, which is kind of cool, actually. Like you're very sedated for the surgery, but you are awake through the whole thing. You can't feel anything. Obviously, there's a lot of anesthetic going on and whatnot, but that was on the
Scary though.
22nd of September was surgery in 2018, and then after that, it was just I had I think a couple months recovery time from the surgery, and then which was actually that was the worst time. And like you'd had the surgery, it was the before the 2 weeks of like being diagnosed, and they got me in straight away for surgery, and that 2 weeks was like just seemed like an eternity. You just want this thing out, like.
Yeah.
And then after the surgery, then I had 6 weeks of low dose chemo and radiation therapy, which was like every day you had to go into hospital for that. So that was the first 6 weeks. And then,
Did that make you really sick and ill?
no, actually, at that point, the low dose chemo didn't affect me at all. You feel a little bit off, but like not nothing. I was actually, when I stayed in Brisbane for 6 weeks and like because I had to go to the hospital every single morning. And so I was doing actually a lot of road riding, and Shawnee lives in Brisbane, Sean Hughes, the Yeti mechanic. So I was doing a ton of road riding with him because I felt physically I felt okay,
What, this
not
is
great,
after
but
the surgery?
I'd had like 2 months of recovery post surgery.
Yeah.
So he was riding with me a lot in Brisbane, and so that was I mean just something to
Yeah.
make you feel normal again, which was I was trying to just stay fit at that point. So I was sort of, and
Yeah.
even where we stayed, I had a 16-kilometer round trip to the hospital every day. So I had that. I had to ride to my radiation every morning. It was always at about 8 o'clock in the morning. So I just get up, ride to radiation, ride back, do a little gym session, and maybe on the weekends I go for a road ride with Sean. And so it actually was a really enjoyable time, the low dose chemo and the radiation therapy, because it was like a 6 week. We had a really nice little apartment near the city and awesome view, and we were super lucky that we got a lot of really good people that donated to the GoFundMe, which just allowed me to have that sort of that comfort of staying somewhere nice while the treatment's going on.
Yeah.
And we could afford, with that money, we could afford to sort of not worry about cooking and that sort of day to day stuff. So we could always eat out, and just
Mhm.
because it's something you don't want to stress about. It's like
Yeah.
cook yourself dinner and meals. You can eat what you want to eat and eat good food, eat the food you need to eat, but
Yeah.
not have to stress about cooking yourself and whatever. So it just made the whole process a lot nicer. So, but then after that the low dose chemo and the radiation was over, then the normal dose chemo 6 month cycle of that started, and that was I handled it pretty well. I think like there was only a few days of sort of head in buckets sort of deal, but it took a little while to figure out that it was like I actually figured out that because initially I was like, I'm going to eat really healthy foods and like give my body sort of the
Yeah.
sustenance it needs. And I
Yeah.
just kept throwing, like I'd throw it straight back up, or I'd feel really nauseous or throw it up. So, and then I figured out that if I didn't eat anything, I'd actually get through the chemo quite well.
Wow.
So the chemo was only 5 days on, where you just sort of load it up in your body for a 5 day cycle, and then you have the rest of the month off. So, but it's still the levels of it still build up with each cycle through in your body. So each cycle just gets worse and worse and worse. The first two didn't feel that bad at all, but sort of by the fourth cycle, that's when I was starting to feel pretty bad. And by the sixth one, you just like, this sucks. Like you just feel so crap and so flat every day.
Oh,
But so in those 5 day cycles, I just worked out I could at least hold the medication down, because that's the issue too. It was just
yeah.
that I wasn't in hospital or anything. It was just a pill. But I just knew that if you threw up the pill, then it's kind of like not working. So you've got to try
Yeah.
and keep it all down. So I figured out that if I didn't eat anything, then I wouldn't throw up, and I wouldn't feel that nauseous. But then you just start feeling really tired because you just
Yeah.
almost malnourished at that point. So it was just a whirlwind of a lot of different things. And of course, you have your days. Like some days, you're just having a good day and mentally you feel good. Like I'm going to beat this sort of thing. I've got this. And other
Mm.
days you're just like, what if I don't beat this? And then you go down that sort of spiral, and that's not a fun place to be at all. It was just an absolute whirlwind of emotions, and really good sort of family and friend crew around me for support, which was unreal.
Yeah.
And no, you couldn't do it without them. That's such a big thing. So, but yeah, not something I wish on anyone, that's for sure.
No. No. Well, thankfully, mate, it's you've come through all that, and obviously that's more important than any other things you've been through
Yeah,
in your career and everything. So yeah, obviously everyone was rooting for you, and you've smashed that like you did all your races. So good job.
yep. It was
But
a
yeah, something hopefully you never have to obviously you're always going to think about it, but you won't have to, you know, go through anything like that again. So,
I
yeah,
think if it came back again, it'd be a bit more worrisome than the
yeah.
first time, knowing that it came back. So it was actually, there was a girl who was in the room next to me, and she was younger than me, and she had it at, I think, early 20s, and she beat it, and she got it again in like sort of her a few years later. It came back again, and she like that's when she was on a second round when I was in hospital with her, and then so I always sort of just on social media kept track of what she was doing, and came back a third time, and she lost a battle the third time with the same, and she had pretty much the same thing I had. So she was just unlucky that it came back repeatedly on her. So
Oh
it's,
man,
yeah, it just makes you think like what could happen. And
yeah.
yeah,
And do you have to go back and have like regular checkups or
I
what's
did for the first 5 years they recommend that you do it every 6 months just to check. So I did that, and so I got my 5 years, and so I'm at just over 6 years now, and I probably should go have another one. Just I do want to keep having some at least semi regularly to just keep tabs on it, but it's kind of like one thing that I've always been bad with it is like out of sight, out of like when everything feels normal and you feel sort of like everything's good, then I sort of forget about it, which is where I want to be. I don't want to be thinking about it all the
No, of
time.
course. Yeah.
You definitely have to be mindful of it though. So it's
Yeah.
definitely we want to make better, sort of at least try to be healthy, like stay active and stay doing what you're doing and eat well and whatever, and
Yeah.
just do the right things to not try and let it come back or whatever. Just try
Yeah.
and be positive about the whole situation.
Like we were saying, we don't know what causes it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be cancer rise is going up and up, and it's got to be to do with the environment and the stuff, the processed food and all the stuff that we consume. It's got
Well,
to
that
be
was one
a
thing that
factor.
I definitely try and not eat so much processed. And that was the big thing at the time was I didn't go the full keto diet, but just trying to eat a really clean diet.
Yeah.
And even like little things, I still do some intermittent fasting from time to time, and so just the sort of the 16 and 8 window sort of thing. Sometimes you stretch it out a little bit, but I think that's just little things like that are proven to work quite well for keeping cancer at bay. So
Yeah, my friend does a lot of that fasting. It's something I haven't done, and I should really think about trying. I'm always hungry, me. I eat way more than I probably should, but
yeah, the thing is, once you get used to, once the body's used to it, it's actually really easy, and you feel good doing it. So
that's what my
you
friend
feel
said.
mentally free, you don't feel hungry, and yeah, I don't do it as much as I have been doing it, but it is really good. I would recommend it just to give it a go. But you do have to stick with it for probably a good few months for your body to fully adapt to it.
That and
And weight loss is a good side benefit.
what yeah, yeah.
I'm not calling you fat. I'm not calling you.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Cheers.
That's not what I'm doing. No.
Yeah,
Moving on.
yeah.
You look great,
No,
Pete. You look great.
I should do it. I'm weak, me. If I don't have my breakfast, but like, what time we on now? It's
Here you go. Just start today.
stop. I'm already shaking
What's it
because I've
like
not had
9
any
o'clock in the morning
breakfast.
there or something? You're
What's
halfway
that?
there. You're probably like 90% of the way there now.
I know I should do it. I'll try it today. If
Just
I
put some
faint
to
by,
lunch.
I'll have fainted by lunchtime if I haven't had some food.
You'll be all right. You'll pull through.
I'll try it. I'll try it, mate. You've motivated me. Um, cool, cool. So, anyway, let's move on from that. But thanks for telling us about that. I know it's something none of us want to think about, and but it's it's part of life, and you've unfortunately had to go through it, but you've come through it, and it's brilliant to see that. But what's the rest of this summer looking like for you? What are you going to be doing the rest of the summer? I mean, we're only halfway through the downhill. Well, we're just over halfway through the downhill World Cup. What's your role with the riders from here on to the end of the race season?
Well, with the downhill, honestly, like my involvement with the downhill program is very limited. So I was primarily on for like Richie Slav, like Richie's with downhill, obviously, but Richie, Slav, and Ryan are the three primary riders that I'm sort of
Okay.
there for. So with enduro being done now for the year, that takes a big load off. But also coach Jen Jackson on the XE side from Canada, so she's right up there in the overall with the XE World Cup. So she's been having a really good season. So that's sort of one of the main things going on for me, coaching wise, for the rest of the World Cup season anyway. Just her and Richie. So and then launching my coaching business, which is something we sort of spoke about last. Well, we didn't speak. We spoke about it off camera, but
Yeah.
so that's been probably, I want to say, I mean, years in the making. It was always the plan to start a coaching business at home. So um, just now with the two kids and like just being planted at home, you got to do what's the next sort of thing. Like still coaching with Yeti, but obviously these days, with stuff like FaceTime and
Yeah.
whatever, and just how easy it is to get in contact with
Yeah.
people. Like it's not hard to get on a phone call or whatever, just communicate with people and talk to them constantly. So
Yeah,
um,
I think that's so much better to talk to, if you send somebody an email with a list of training things to, it's just an email, isn't it? But if you get on a call with yourself like now and it's so much more motivating and real. Do you know what I mean? I think
Oh yeah,
it's
like, I mean, some writers like Ryan and Jen, they like to get on phone calls and talk, and that's great. But Richie's not a big talker sometimes. I mean, he is sometimes as well. But and then Slav just wants his program, and you sort of discuss a few things, and but he sort of just wants well, he wants to know what to do, and he just goes and does it. So he's a bit robotic like that, but it works for him. Again, what
yeah,
works for him doesn't really work for Richie or Ryan. So
yeah,
um, and I think that takes time as a coach too to sort of work out what
yeah.
each rider needs and what works for them and sort of implementing that into their program. And
Yeah.
I've actually been working with Chloe Taylor quite a bit for a
Okay,
few
cool.
years now as well. So been sort of she's on it like she's sort of doing different things with with her own sort of coaching and business side of things with Bex as well. So but that just sort of all came about because I was coaching Bex when she was on Yeti. So
Yeah, yeah,
um, yeah, but Chloe's had some really good results. She's got 10th at World Champs too, so
yeah.
that was a
Brilliant.
good sort of result for a local of yours. So
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I kind of Chloe's great. I like Chloe a lot, and I feel like it's just where she's coming into her own, and the age she's at with enduro and her career. It's just such a shame that it's kind of not the best time for enduro. I feel sorry for her,
yeah, yeah, she's riding really well. So
Yeah,
especially like this, she's had some good results, and she's trying to work and like do and
I know.
mix it all together too, which makes it a bit trickier. So
Yeah, I know
she's doing really well. So
yeah, defo. Um, do you think at the moment, I spoke to Charlie Murray the other week, and he was telling me a few things. Do you think it's gonna the enduro for the next year or two? Um, do you think it's going to be a case of riders are going to have to, other than like hopefully the Yeti team still supporting it, but do you think it's going to be a case of riders are going to be getting their own sponsors and doing it themselves and until it picks up
yeah,
again?
I think like someone like Greg Callahan's done it really well. Like he's happy doing that too. So
Yeah,
but there's always that opportunity there. Like sponsors can see the potential for the riders, so but it's just more work for the rider to put together your own program. But
yeah,
that's a very logical direction for things to sort of go in. And if that's what it is, like if it's not that big factory team support, then I mean the disciplines too. It's got too much potential for it to be not get back to sort of how it had been. So
yeah,
I think it's just going to take the right people with that sort of vision and that sort of drive to want to get the sport, push it in that direction again and sort of build that enthusiasm behind it again. So
yeah. I mean, what one thing I was thinking about, and I know it all comes down to budget, but if you're going to have to do it for the next few years on some riders on less of a wage than they might have been getting off some of the big teams. But I think it's a really good opportunity for some of the smaller bike brands to jump onto enduro because you know yourself that we all know that you sell more enduro bikes than you do downhill bikes or XC bikes because that's what most people have and as well as an
yeah,
e-bike now. But some of these smaller brands that maybe couldn't have competed with some of the big brands, if they start pulling out of enduro, they could get, potentially sponsor some quite high profile riders that
Yeah,
wouldn't
totally.
cost as much as normal, but it will grow their brand.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see like a story like that pop up too. Like that's a great opportunity for those companies to sort of pick up a good name rider and get that exposure, and I think we'll definitely see that happen. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. I hope so. Yeah, definitely. And without going into, you know, everything you do with your training business, how do you kind of set up a program for a downhill rider over a cross country rider over an enduro rider? How do you kind of go about that? And what sort
I
of
think
things do downhillers need to do these days?
well, I guess the first thing with the training business that I'm starting, it's more going to be on the bike skills coaching for all levels of riders too, not just like obviously I love working with the top of the top guys. That's sort of what I really love the most. But I also love seeing like the beginners,
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they learn to do something they couldn't do before. You see the smile on their face, like that's
yeah,
very rewarding for me, like I love seeing that. So that's going to be a big part of the business. But just with the on the coaching side, like I'm just lucky that I've done well. I haven't raced World Cup cross country. I've raced sort of domestic, national rounds and won national champ medals in cross country. So
yeah.
I've
You've
done
done
honestly, I've probably done as much or probably even more sort of just study and training and trial and error with myself to like learn about that sort of stuff over probably the last 10 or more years now. So, but I've always been self-coached. So that was the big thing that sort of, I think we spoke about that last time. Like I just learned so much, just always got my head buried in sort of training journals and just whatever I can find. And you sort of apply that to your own. I still, experiment with my own writing, like try some of this, try some of that, see what the benefits and what the effects are of it and how your body responds to it. So that's just something I find super interesting. But luckily I've had sort of, the enduro, the BMX and the downhill background. So
Hmm.
specifically what sort of the demands of the sport is. And it's not a lot of the training principles are sort of they can kind of be adapted to different disciplines based on what the sort of specificity of that discipline is like. Something it's a very different way of doing it. But one thing I really believe in that I've always done myself is you train sort of the really top end and sort of the lower end as far, for enduro or cross country, you might think of it as like, your intense short efforts, which for enduro might be your sprint power, but then also your endurance, which is just sort of your base fitness. So, and then but for XC, it might be sort of that VO2 range and even like some sprint training as well. And that VO2 range right down to your, base as well. But just applying it in different amounts and different measures to sort of be more specific to that discipline. So, and then even the same for downhill, you'd get a lot of benefit. Like, downhill, for example, like if you can be fitter and like not going so much into oxygen debt, if your body can utilize the oxygen, have more red blood cells, whatever, through training, you're going to get, and that's the difference. When you see the guys winning and losing races by hundreds of a second, sometimes even like just being fitter than the next guy can be the difference between winning and not even being on the podium. So
Yeah,
um, it's just like, obviously if you're going to be fitter and stronger, all those pedal strokes at every corner is going to have more influence. It's going to have more benefit. You're going to be thinking clearer. You're going to be stronger at the bottom of the run. More consistent speed, top to bottom, not getting two-thirds of the way down and just dying. And you still see it now, World Cups guys that they're on a heater, and then the last split, everything just falls apart because
yeah,
well, without knowing what they're doing for training, you can pretty much pinpoint that down to not being physically prepared enough. So a
yeah,
lot of guys, and it's good when you're young too. Just like a lot of young guys just want to be like runs, 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 and just get. I mean, you got to get the skills at some point, but
yeah,
when you get to the tippy top of World Cup level, even national level, like
yeah,
it's those little one percenters that's going to make the difference. And it's not only that too. When you're training and you're really focused on what you're doing, when you enter a race and you're like, okay, I've trained hard, I'm prepared. Mentally, you're just like you're ready to go. You're switched on. You're there to race. You're not there to sort of just have a For a lot of guys, they do just want to have a good time with their mates. But if you're serious about your racing and even just even for like the coaching business, it's just for the guys who want to, maybe they just want to beat their buddy, at the local race, or just, do better than they did. They want to see that self progression, like
Yeah.
just that snowball effect of just learning some new skills, learning, getting fitter and stronger in certain areas, and just seeing the way that your riding progresses through your speed, through your enjoyment of riding, through your recovery. Honestly, it just positively affects every aspect of your life. Like you feel, I'm always at my happiest when I'm riding consistently. Like even if I'm not even training or racing, training to race anything. Like right now, for example, like I'm just in a good routine of like I just love getting out on the bike, and just some days you just feel like I've got a very unscientific personal approach at the moment, just because I'm just enjoying riding my
Yeah.
bike. But even though like some days you're like I'm going to try some of these intervals, and you
Yeah.
start doing a few sessions like that, and you just see like the snowball effect of just the speed pick up. And it's not just like your speed, but like, you know, a climb won't be torture. It'll be, you won't even think about it. You're like, oh, we got this, 25-minute climb coming up. You're like, oh, it'll be fine. Like, let's just, you just cruise up, and before you know it, you're at the top and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
You're not like struggling. Whereas if you're unfit and your riding's really unstructured and like not consistent, and you never get that fitness, like your riding experience just isn't that great, because you're always sort of struggling on some level. And let's be honest, like no one wants to struggle and like feel like something's a pain in the butt and torturous. So
No.
it just improves your riding experience on all levels, from beginner through to the top of the World Cup level. Like the more, everyone's obviously going to have different sort of time allocations and different goals, but like
Mm.
if you can like sit down with someone and work out how much time they've got and what their goals are, then putting together a program for them to just to make their whole experience more
Yeah.
enjoyable
Oh,
is
yeah.
something satisfying and beneficial for everyone. So
Yeah. 100%. And so, like, just as a question and an example for people. So, back in the day, I did BMX racing and I did downhill and dual and four cross and stuff, and I could always, not to the level you were at, and I never trained properly, but I was always still quite good at accelerating and,
yep,
sprinting, I guess. Whereas in the past, I don't know, 10 years or so, I started to do the enduro, and I'd never done any stuff, kind of big rides like that. My longest ride would have probably been, other than if I was going downhilling for the day or whatever, just like an XC ride without even any climbs. I'd probably do an hour and a half max. And
yeah,
then when I started doing enduro, I started getting like cramps. I'd never had cramps in my life before. And for me, it used to be a case of I used to be worried about can I make it around the whole day.
mm,
Whereas now, I'm older and I understand that your body changes and you can't do what you could when you were younger. But now I can pedal up the climb to the top of the Golfie is like, it's about 50
that's a
minutes.
long climb. Yeah,
Yeah, and I could do that no problem. I can do that
yeah.
maybe, three or four times. And at 53,
It's always interesting how your body just adapt. I've always said like your body is way better than people think it. Whatever you force it to do, your body's way better at adapting to that stress than people give it credit for.
yeah.
Like if
I,
you do something, and a big part of it is just like consistency and repetition, and over time you'll like you just said, like you'll get to the top of that long climb. You'll be able to do it repeatedly. My
yeah.
very first ever mountain bike ride I went on, like honestly, it was only about a maybe 120-meter vertical descent,
Hmm.
and getting back to the top was like the most torturous experience of my life. Like, and like now, I think in some trainings I do VO2 intervals. Well, did in the past VO2 intervals up that same climb, and I do it like 8 times.
I don't even know what one of them is. What is that?
Well, that's just your VO2 max is your maximal sort of oxygen uptake. So the more you can train your body to be basically still be efficient while in oxygen debt, like you're
Okay.
gonna get more efficient at just going. It's above what's known as your threshold is basically like, to put it in simple terms, it's like your based around what you can do for 1 hour, your maximum output for 1 hour
One
of
hour.
consistent. That's your threshold, but like your VO2 max is typically about 110 to 125% at the upper range of what your aerobic capability is. So once you're in VO2, you're going into oxygen debt. That's where you can't hold it. You're gonna, and that's why you got to train that energy system, because once you go into oxygen debt, that's when you start, you
Yeah.
know, dropping off a cliff, which is, for enduro or even downhill, you've got a long track, you're going to be in major oxygen debt by the time you're at the bottom. You just got to see, well, people might not be pedaling. You just got to take one look at their heart rate data to see that
Yeah.
they're in oxygen debt, basically. And then that's why, like, again, that's why guys drop off at the end of stages, like, because they're in oxygen debt, their body's shutting down, everything's, you talk about going cross-eyed, like,
Yeah.
when you're cross-eyed, you can't concentrate on what you're doing. You're breathing super hard, and as
Yeah.
soon as you get an oxygen debt, your breathing goes. And that's once your breathing starts going to crap. That's when everything starts falling apart. So,
Okay.
and even then, like to put it into like enduro terms, like the top of the world stage at Whistler was always one that I won both times in Whistler that I won. That was the last stage, and I wasn't in the lead before the last stage, but because that was like a 20 something,
Yeah.
21, 22 minute stage,
Yeah.
and I knew I had that fitness, and I could pace it. I could. You do enough of that training, you get to. I won't go into the specifics and give away sort of some of the
Yeah.
sessions I lay out for like Richie and Slav and Gilly and that, but once you get really good at riding at that sort of, you can feel the intensity where okay, I'm at that limit. I need to just like back off a little bit. Otherwise, I'm going to go into the red and I don't want to be there yet because there's
Yeah.
still another 10 minutes to go on the stage. So it's just doing the training to know where that limit is of just like staying there sort of thing. And then when okay, it's only 3 minutes to the finish, that's when you start sort of
Yeah.
winding it up a bit, and and the last minute is just hang on for everything you got left, sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
but guys, especially that long stage in Whistler, that's why I love that stage, because guys who hadn't trained properly, who didn't know how to pace it well, they would fall apart on that last stage.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's why I love the long stages for that reason.
yeah, I remember we were there when we were doing enduro, and Sam was, in contention for winning any round. That was the first stage,
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep.
and Richie had already won the race by the after that first
Yeah,
stage.
I remember that. Yeah, because he put like 30 seconds. He had a minute lead at the end of the first day of racing. I remember.
Yeah, so like even though Sam was beating him by a couple of seconds on the t stages after, unless he had a disaster, he wasn't going to make that time back. So interesting for me. Obviously, like I'm at a point in my life now where I just I need to be fit enough to pedal up to the top of the hill, like here 3 times with the guys I ride with. They're all like in the 50s and 40s, and some of them are pretty steady on the way down, but they've always done kind of endurance events and things like that. And I can pedal up at their pace, okay. But then I did an enduro race 2 weeks ago. I mentioned earlier that was quite pedally and physical. It wasn't the type of train I'm very good at, like where you've got to generate speed and do little like maybe 20, 15, 20 second 30-second sprints up a hill. I mean, I never do sprints anymore, and my legs don't seem to. I don't understand. Like I used to be able, like I was saying, I used to be able to sprint decent, and now my legs don't seem to want to go fast enough.
You can always get back there, Paige. It comes back to the whole use it or lose it thing.
Well,
Like if
that's
you did the training for it, you'd get there again.
that's
You
my
might not
question.
be as good as you were when you were 30 or 25 or whatever, but you could get a big improvement from where you're at now. And that
Well,
might be a massive thing to improving your enjoyment of riding.
that's my question. So here, like you pedal up to the top of the tracks here, and it's a fair effort to get up there, but the trails coming down, you don't really pedal. They're all pumping and carrying your speed and braking, which I can still do okay. But then when I have to sprint, I'm useless, and I go into that obviously
Yeah.
that where then I can't ride the rest of the track because I'm that knackered. What's
Yeah.
the type of thing that I should be doing to improve that at my age and without having an heart attack?
Well, I think if there's one thing you can do that's like always going to be better than anything else, it's just specificity. Like if you have a little goal, say for a race, and maybe you know roughly what the stages, or at least, if it's at home, you might not know what the stages are, but you know what the trails are like,
Yeah.
and think about what they might throw at you. And if there is, like, you just got to go and replicate to some extent. You don't have to go flat out, but just try and get close to replicating what they might throw at you at race time. So that might involve like going and doing like a 90% race run or something that you can repeat over and over again.
Yeah.
And a big part of it, even if you're not going to put in like full training to do it, just knowing what your body has to give. And like, so it can be the hardest thing. Like you might, especially like where you are, like I know that there's lots of potential there for some pretty long, say 7, 8 minute stages there if they take a fairly sort of pedally way down. And,
Yeah.
but it just be knowing that stage. And even if they don't race that stage, if you're out just riding, just say, okay, I'm gonna focus on just trying to breathe and relax and be efficient, and just learn what my body has to give. And like you'll just get to know like that if you sprint this bit, then you're gonna die. But if you back it off, I always say to the riders, like when you break down a stage, you can be like, all right, we're gonna give up in this first sort of 3 minutes of the stage. Maybe there's like a climb in the middle or something, so we're going to give up 3 seconds in this top 3 minutes
Hmm.
because that'll keep your heart rate, say 15 or 20 beats lower. So
Yeah.
when you get to that pinch climb, you've got all the ability to then, you'll give up 3 seconds at the beginning and you might gain 10 seconds in that 1 minute in the middle of the pedally physical section, or maybe not. Maybe it's a bit longer than that. That could be a bit
Yeah.
too much time, but it's all about just knowing what your body has to give and like applying that and racing smart with it. And like, because it's the easiest thing in the world to do at the start of the stage when you're even in downhill, there's some of the longer tracks, there's got to be a little bit of an element of pacing and breathing and
Yeah.
not going absolutely ham at every section from the start, because like if there's always going to be, you might not feel it, but like you might feel good top to bottom, but if you build into a run skill, even in downhill, like there's got to be an aspect of just sort of pacing it a little bit to keep all your energy stores for the section you might need it the most. Like if you're, say, Montsanan, for example, if you're completely cross-eyed and full of arm pump when you get to some of the technical rock sections near the bottom, you're going to lose time for sure,
Yeah.
guaranteed. So
Definitely.
it's knowing what your body's got to give, being smart about it. And like, again, with enduro, it might be like, it's the suckiest thing in the world. I've done it so many times. Like in your head, you think I am bleeding time. I could be going so much harder, but you're purposely holding back because you're like, I've got to save it for here. And like it's about racing smart. So
Yeah.
it's like one of the probably the number one time I learned this was the one of the French rounds, the second ever EWS in where was it? Uh, Val let's do well.
Yeah.
And the very first stage, so I was behind Jerome Clements,
Hmm.
and it was about a 7 minute sort of flowy with some technical bits descent, and then they just threw this gnarly, like straight up, like granny gear almost road climb that went on for about 3 minutes, legit 3 minutes, and then dropped into this. It was nasty. It was not fun. But I thought like I didn't know properly about, because Punta Ala the first round before that was quite short stages, and there was some longer ones, but it was more, there wasn't a whole lot of pacing going on there. So, but this one, it wasn't. It was anyway. It was one of the French, might have been one of the later French rounds, but so Jerome he started 30 seconds ahead of me, and when we got to the bottom of this climb, I'd probably caught him 20 seconds, and I thought I was on an absolute heater. But the difference was he was chilling at the top. I was already on my limit when we hit the climb,
Yeah.
and we hit this climb, and he just blew away from me. I couldn't even see him when he crested the top. He was just gone,
Yeah.
and I didn't even get close to him that stage because he knew about that. He rode it really smart,
Yeah.
and that was like the big eye opener for me. Like I've got to learn about this, and I've got to race smart if I'm going to beat him and beat these guys. That stuff that they already know about. So I learned
Yeah.
so much by learning the hard way on that day. And even though some really good stages that race and whatever, but even stages later on in that race, I did a lot better because I did hold back at the start and save it for later on, sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it just all
Yeah.
comes down to racing smart. So
Yeah, and racing regularly. I mean, I like I say,
yeah,
I did this little race the other week, and I haven't done an enduro non-e-bike race for over a year, and I haven't done any, training for that. But yeah, there was one stage that had some cool technical stuff at the start, and then there was a couple of climbs in the stage that were, slow, and I didn't prepare for it or think about it enough. And I just remember I got to the climb and I thought, oh, is that climb? And then I just tried to do literally a BMX sprint without having
yeah,
the
you
training.
can't do that.
I, Halfway up, I was that knackered. I clipped a rock with my foot, whacked my toe, went over the bars, flipping, and I had to get up and get going again on a climb. And then I had to pull over and let some kid on an e-bike pass me. If I'd have been smart and saved a bit of energy and just tracted up that climb strong,
Yeah,
just did that, and then at the top, and then I was so tired at the top, then I couldn't ride the next bit. I was like riding down with my hands like this.
yeah. Oh,
But
totally. Yeah. Well, it was the same thing. That stage I was just telling you about. When I crested the climb, then it was basically like brake dragging steep descent for the next like 2 or 3 minutes. And I was so cross-eyed on the bloody climb
yeah,
because I reached down on my shock to lock it out for the climb, and I was so cross-eyed and knackered when I crested it, I forgot to unlock it. So then I'm
yeah,
basically think of then riding down. It was like Champery steep, and I'm riding down that on the trail bike with my rear end locked out,
yeah,
and just it was an abs, and my arms instantly blew up. I had so much arm pump,
yeah,
and it was honestly it was one of the top three most miserable experiences I've ever had on a bike. That one stage, because it was like my heart rate was absolutely redlining. I was had insane arm pump. I was a
yeah,
complete passenger on my bike, and I knew I was just bleeding massive time,
yeah,
and it was miserable.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? But
Yeah.
so cool. So
There's honestly there's so much more that goes into the finer points of racing, and so, people that just watch racing on the weekend, even with downhill, they might just think guys are just like absolutely as tapped as they can go, top to bottom, sprinting at every corner. But you can't, even at downhill World Cups, you can't sprint flat out, top to bottom, out of every corner. So
no,
it's
no,
always there's always an element of like playing it smart and just knowing what your limits are and what your body has to give, and that just comes back to the that's why training's so beneficial. And because also if you're not physically prepared even at a downer World Cup, like
mm,
you're gonna get tired through practice, and you're not going to be 100% physical for the run that counts. You're going to be tired, and you're going to lose time because you're worn out from practice and qualifying. So
yeah,
there's
definitely.
so much to it.
I mean, have you seen any of Ronan's POV race runs that he puts out
I've seen a couple of them. Yeah, yeah.
where he's like screaming and swearing at himself?
Well, it works for him. It works for him. So
I mean, it's really fun to watch, and but you can hear his breathing, how hard he's breathing and pushing. He's as
yeah,
well as being an absolute maniac on the bike. He's proper, giving it absolutely everything,
yeah.
um, which is cool. Is there if you had the opportunity to, you know, to other than your team and your riders, is there anyone on the downhill World Cup circuit that you would like to be part of the training and that you think that you could help them with? Is there anyone in particular or any few
I
riders that
think,
you
like, I
think
mean, honestly, without knowing
the
without knowing what their program is, and it takes time to get to know someone, to get to know what
course,
their strengths and weaknesses are, and it takes once you know their strengths and weaknesses, then you can start formulating sort of a program sort of thing, and like just getting you in the right direction to help with certain things. But a lot of that just comes from communication. Like you've got to be, as a rider, you've got to be brutally honest with yourself, and that's something I always, as my own coach, I always said to myself, like you can't just pretend that you're the man in like every area sort of thing. You've got to be like, all right, I could be better at this. And I always say like you've got to consolidate your strengths but work on your weaknesses. So you don't let your strengths drop off, but you primarily have to work on. And I think we even talked about it last time too. Like you got to keep working on what you know you're not good at, and like even though you might have the worst mistake as a rider you can make is like someone might tell you like you're amazing at this, like you smashed that, and like you've got to then take what they said and like put it to the side and be like, but was I like,
Mm.
because you'll know yourself, like you've got to be honest with yourself and say I could have done this better. Some of the most self-critical, and that's exactly how I was the whole time, but being really self-critical of yourself is a good thing, and you hear these stories about you know amazing athletes in whatever sport, like, and they're all they break down, they're super critical of themselves because that's how they get, they can pinpoint their weaknesses from that, and they know that's what they need to work on because they don't feel insane confidence in some area, even though the rest of the world might think they're bomb proof and they're amazing. They have that inner belief that they could be better at something. And as a coach and an athlete with that sort of relationship, that's where communication is very important. They need to say to me like, I could be better at this, and then you sort of work out how you can go about improving that area and not just sort of pretending that little issue. You might be 99% of the way there, but if you're not 100% of the way there, there's always room for improvement. So
Yeah.
honestly, there's so many riders that if I'd love to work with more riders and get to know what they want to get better, what they feel their weaknesses are, and they have to sort of be very almost vulnerable a little bit to like open up and not try and be macho about it all and just pretend that everything's good. But and that's where just having that, always try to be very friendly and with all the riders, like not judge in any area sort of thing. Just let them feel comfortable to talk to you about any strengths and weaknesses, and
Yeah.
sort of, because ultimately you all have the same goal of just sort of ironing out the kinks, so to speak, and just moving in the right direction and getting better. So, but
Yeah.
you need to know any one particular rider, you need to know what they're all about to sort of begin with. And of the current crop of top downhill guys, I don't really know too many of them that well. Some of the older guys I do. So, but
Mhm. Yeah.
um, yeah. So
Yeah.
can't really answer. Can't give you the answer you want there. Sorry.
All right, fair enough. But you must like watch the racing, and with all your experience and stuff, you must even I do. I watch somebody and I think, I swear, like if they improved that little part of their riding, it would help their overall results. Um, like especially with some of the ladies and the girls, like that they're so impressive, the speed and the size of the jumps and stuff they do now. But the the mad basics that I guess we learned from BMX racing, they I don't know if you noticed, but when it comes to a sprint stage, some of the ladies, they don't use their upper body
Get better. Yeah, yeah.
to move
I
the
mean,
bike.
everything again comes back to like any coaching I do. A big part of it is always just the fundamentals, like lots of sort of sprinting and corner drills,
Yeah,
and the best riders in the world all should be doing. If they're not doing it already, they should be doing the fundamentals, which can. It's not all about just going and riding the gnarly tracks all the time. You need to get on total flow tracks and just
yeah,
really think about your body position, how you're pedaling out of corners. Like I said before, there's so many little
yeah.
technical aspects to it that people don't even consider. Like it's not all about just riding the gnarly stuff all the time, and
Oh,
it's
like
it's coming back. You got to stay on top of the basics, and one of the best things you can do for any enduro, cross country even, and enduro is just corner drills, like just really making your technique as dialed as it can be to maximize your grip through technique, not even tires, like
yeah,
maximizing. Ride old crappy tires. I've always had a wheel set with tires that are completely blown out, and even like lightweight tires, like when your goal might be, all right, if I can get down this track and still be fast and smooth and not get a flat tire on this cross country tire, then when you do get on sort of some downhill casing tires, that sort of skill of just being smooth and light on your bike not only translates into not getting mechanical, it translates into not getting hung up on all these little things that
mm,
would ordinarily cause a flat, and like just you can maintain that speed so much better through the section because you're being light and feathery on your bike. And again, coming back to like Bruni, that's why I think for me anyway, he is the benchmark of just having that body position, that technique just down to an art. Like he just looks
yeah.
so smooth and fluid on the bike. Like He's
Yeah.
my favorite guy to watch for sure. Just when he's on a heater,
Yeah.
none would rather watch, that's for sure. Like when
Mm.
I see someone, there's some of the guys you see them getting, so using Ronan as an example, he gets quite sort of ragged and wild at times. Like, and that works for him and it works on certain tracks, but he doesn't always have the consistency that I'm sure that he'd even like. So
Yeah.
that's where you might sort of get him to take a step back and work on a few basic things and just sort of
Yeah.
analyze it from a big picture perspective sort of thing. So
Yeah. I
maybe
think
someone like him to answer your question.
I think he's getting there. He is.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too. Like it can take years and years. Like, and again, my role with Yeti was to try and help the young. Like with Richie, it was a big thing. Just like, he won his first enduro world title in his second year racing enduro because I just told him everything I knew and had learned, and he just applied it really well.
Yeah.
And straight away, just won second year racing enduro as a 19-year-old, won the world title. So I could see he
Yeah.
had the talent, the ability, and like we spoke about it last time too. Like I was not in any way annoyed when he beat me because I knew that he had the whole package. He had the skills, the mentality, the
Yeah.
sort of the application of what needed to be done through training, and he proves that year after year that And I think we can get there with him with downhill, but again, it just comes back to the whole the mental side of things. At,
Yeah.
at the real pointy end, it's that physical preparation and then the mentality and just not getting in your own head, being sort of the right level of sort of focused and nervous, and because you need to be nervous to perform too. So, but
Yeah.
just harnessing that to and putting it into a good race run. So that's the
Yeah.
biggest difference at the tippy top, and that's the guy that wins world champs this weekend or girl is going to be the person who has just managed all the little factors all week, the preparation, the nerves, the sort of the conditions, and puts it all together on the day. So
Yeah. For sure.
it sounds easy in theory, but it's the most difficult thing. And again, it comes back to just being brutally honest with yourself and working on those things away from racing before when to prepare, and then so it sort of feels automatic on race day, and that's where the guys that are consistent, they've sort of got that level sort of figured out. So
Yeah. Definitely. And okay, well, before we wrap this up, what if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the to get on with a training program? And I don't see why I can't see there's many people better than you qualified to do that. What's the best way of them doing that?
well, the email address is going to be contact@jaredgraves.com.au.
Okay, great.
So
Just get
that's pretty self-explanatory for the spelling and whatever. So keep it
yeah.
simple, but that's going to be the email address to contact me at. So
Okay.
the website's going to launch soon, so there'll be all the contact info will be on the website. So
Okay,
yeah,
brilliant.
just send me a message, and there's sort of very specific things on the site, but there's also mention that like anyone with any specific requests, just let me know and we can start that sort of communication and see what it looks like and work it out from there. So
Okay, great stuff. And then so World Champs and World Cup overall, who do you think's going to win both of those? I'm going to put you on the spot.
I'm gonna go with Jackson for the win this weekend, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with Broom for the overall.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. That's
I
that's
think I think Bruni's been there too many times before for the overall. I think he'll get it done,
I
and I
th
think Jackson. I think it's just the right track for him this weekend, and I think
yeah.
he's up for it. And I
Yeah,
was I was on the money with Asa for the hardline call last time. So
okay. And what about Junior?
oh geez, yeah. I kind of feel like Max is going to get it. So
Both. Both.
again, it's just that sort of track. So
Yeah.
um, yeah. And on the women's side, I feel like Valley's going to get it.
Gonna get Worlds or the overall?
Worlds.
Okay.
So I'm not sure exactly where the points are lining up at the moment, but
It's
for the
pretty
overall. But
close. It's pretty
yeah,
close
yeah,
with her and Gracie for the overall, and
yeah,
then Arne's a little bit back in third.
yeah. I feel
Uh,
like I could go either way. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have
well,
to see.
yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, Gracie's riding amazing, but Valley's not won a race yet. I think she could have won last week in Leger,
Yeah.
but I think she's going to be pretty hungry for the Worlds for sure.
Mhm.
Um, Good stuff, mate. Well, Yeah, well, I think we can wrap it up there. I really appreciate all your time, and it's been super interesting listening to all this stuff. And you've motivated me now to do some
Not even.
fasting and go and do a sprint.
Don't do it all the time. That's the biggest thing. Is like people that do it every day. That's not a good idea either.
What, sprinting or fasting?
Fasting.
And not sprinting when I'm
Sprinting
fasting.
every day is not a good idea either. Actually, so everything in moderation. When the doctors tell you everything in moderation, they're onto something. There's a
Yeah.
reason they'll tell you that.
So I can't just my little thing that the doctors say is I try and have an apple a day, but that's not going to cut it. I've got to do some sprints and do some fasting.
And then have an apple.
Okay.
You're a work in progress. It can mold you like a lovely clay bowl or something. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, I'm quite new to it, and I've got youth on my side, so yeah, there's plenty of time.
How old are you now, PG?
53.
53. Yeah, that's my number, 53. Right
Yeah.
here.
There it is. There it is. I've still got some stickers.
Yep. 53 is my number. It's a good
Cool.
age.
Cool, cool. So yeah, I'm just starting out really.
Well, hit me up for a program. We'll talk.
I will. I will, mate. Oh, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jared, and yeah, it's been great chatting to you. You know, I've always loved hanging out with you and chatting with you when we've been at the races. You're always one of my favourites for sure.
You were always my trackside buddy at the EWSs.
Yeah, I miss them
And
times.
she was always
Hopefully,
there to chat to.
yeah, hopefully we'll get to catch up at a race at some point. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Cool, man. All right, well,
All right, thank you.
thanks so much. Enjoy being a dad at the moment as well as everything else you're doing.
I have to
And
put it to bed, actually. It's gone dark now, so it must be nearly bedtime.
yeah, all right. Well, yeah, thanks so much, mate. And I'll catch up with you soon.
Yep, sounds good. You too, PG.
Cheers. See you, mate.
See ya.
Bye. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that part two of Jared Graves. What a guy. All the stuff he's done and what he's been through and everything is amazing. And yeah, super cool dude. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe. That really helps us if you haven't done that already. And any comments, we'd appreciate that. And please, if you'd like to support the channel, you know, we've got some cool t-shirts and hoodies merch going. You can go on the website and purchase them, and that really helps us out. So appreciate anyone who's done that already. It's awesome to see people out in our t-shirts and hoodies, and it's makes me smile. So thanks very much. If you're going to watch the World Championships this weekend, enjoy that. I can't wait. And we'll catch you next time with another amazing guest. Cheers.